Many high school athletes have dreams of playing their sport in college, but getting a scholarship isn't as cut and dry as you would think. In the first part of our Athlete Educator series, Tim Livingston sits down with Drew Felios to tell us what prep athletes need to know about the recruiting process before they make their college decision.
Yeah, recruiting season about to heat up. In fact, it is going to be fast and furious over the next few months, heading into early signing day and national signing day. Joining us is athlete educator Tim Livingston to help some of you athletes out there and parents understand the process better. There are several mistakes made in this entire process by coaches and by athletes and parents that are being pursued.
Right.
What are the most common ones?
I think, Drew, the most common mistakes I see, number one is prioritizing. Why do you want to go to a particular place? Is it because of status? Is it because of education? Is it because of opportunity? Why do you want to go there? Because first and foremost, we have to find the best fit for a kid to be able to go play in college.
As far as visits are concerned, how important are those also?
How can you go someplace if you've never been there? How can you sign with a school when you don't understand the chemistry of the setup? What if you play here in Florida, our local athletes, and all of a sudden they want to go and sign with Oklahoma? Have they ever been to Oklahoma? Have they been to Oklahoma in the winter? Have they ever played in that kind of atmosphere before? If you don't know the chemistry of the program, if you don't know the location, the geography, and how about the academics? What are they going to do for you to help you get from point A to point B in your life, not just on the football or baseball field?
Tim, it's amazing how many athletes go to college and then transfer either in the middle of their first year or after their first year. What are some of those numbers?
Oh my gosh, the numbers are outrageous. 40% of all college athlete freshmen transfer. 40%. Nearly 70% of all athletes who enter college as athletes do not finish college as athletes. Think about that. 7 out of 10. Imagine if you ran a business or a company and you had a 70% turnover ratio. You wouldn't stay in business. And why does that happen? It happens because people don't focus on finding the right place to go before they decide where to go.
So find the right place, take your visits, and at the end of the day, try and make it through the 4 years, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. But part of that finding the right fit is prioritizing. Every athlete, every family has their own situation. What I try to tell people is you ride your sport to the greatest education you can get and or the least expensive, depending on your family circumstance. Because, Drew, even if you're lucky enough to be a professional athlete, which from NCAA to pro in almost every sport is less than 1.5% of all NCAA athletes will go pro. The average lifespan of a professional athlete is 3.75 years. So by the time you're 26, you're going to have to get a job. So you got to find the right place to go.
Good stuff, good stuff. Tim Livingston, our athlete educator, educating us on the entire recruiting process.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Drew and Tim. We'll hear more from those guys later in the show. But when we come back, it's time for the latest edition of the Top 5 Plays of the Week. Plus, should post-game handshakes be eliminated? We take a closer look at a disturbing trend of bad sportsmanship as High School Scoreboard continues. We talk a lot about recruiting on this show, especially when highlighting local athletes that have accepted scholarships. But how do you go from excelling on the field to excelling on the recruiting trail? Once again, athlete educator Tim Livingston joins Drew Felios to help answer some important recruiting questions.
Yeah, the offers are coming, and a lot of the athletes are verbally accepting. As we welcome in our athlete educator, Tim Livingston, what about if it's midway through the season or your season's almost over, you haven't had any offers yet, or you're a sophomore or junior, still nothing? What do you do?
It depends on the situation, depends on the circumstance and who the athlete is, because more and more universities are recruiting earlier and earlier and earlier. But the most important thing as an athlete is you don't want to expose yourself until it's time. One thing about recruiting is that it's just like your parents taught you all your life. The first impression is a lasting one. So if you make a poor first impression the first time around with a college coach, because there are so many kids playing and so few coaches and so few scholarships, if you don't make a good first impression, chances are that coach will never look at you again. So if you're not being recruited yet, you need to talk to your coaches and your coaching staff, whether it be travel ball coaches, high school coaches, whomever it might be, and find out where the discrepancy lies. Is it my abilities? Is it my athleticism? Is it my size? Is it just I'm not there yet? Because you need to understand why those opportunities have not yet been presented, and then work on that aspect of it.
How much is it being at the right school? Like, say you're not getting enough playing time, or your coach and you just don't see eye to eye. Is that reason enough to consider a transfer if you're looking to get a scholarship?
Well, you know, transferring is an interesting topic, right? Because transferring is not quite as easy as you and I sitting here talking about. You can't just get up and go because you don't like this program and want to go to this program. You got to be able to go through the process to make that transfer actually happen. But the reality is, and coaches are not going to like what I'm about to say, but unless it's football, the truth is there is hardly any recruiting happening in high school.
Wow.
It's happening in travel ball.
Sure.
That's where they go. Ask any player, ask any parent, ask any coach, how many college coaches are showing up to a high school event today other than football? And you will hear hardly any.
So, message, work on your game, not your high school in the end.
Well, you have to develop as a player, right? Coaches in high school now are put into a scenario where they may be a new teacher. The school requires that a teacher coach the team. You may be a coach that is focused on creating a team chemistry and atmosphere to win for the school. The truth is, Drew, it all boils down to development. And we haven't talked about development much, but the reality is you develop on the practice field and you develop when you're not practicing with your team. The problem in today's sports environment is that nobody wants to put in the work outside of what they do with their team. So if you can't progress within your own team, how are you possibly going to showcase yourself amongst the players in the state and the country? And that's really where recruiting is happening. There's such a small percentage. 3.3% of all high school basketball players in America can play Division I, II, or III. 3.3%. So it doesn't matter if you're the best player on your team. Really, it's getting to the point where it doesn't matter if you're the best player in your conference or even in your county. It's, are you in that top 3% in your state and in the country? Because the numbers don't lie. That's what they are.
Athlete educator Tim Livingston on educating us with the recruiting process.
All right, thank you, Drew. We've got some more live football games for you. Friday night, Week 11, the final week of the high school football regular season. A great rivalry matchup here as Tampa Catholic goes on the road to face Jesuit. Kick time in that one in 7:30 in the Tampa Bay area. Over in Central Florida, another good matchup. Leesburg taking on South Sumter. Both games on Bright House Sports Network. Both kickoffs at 7:30. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of High School Scoreboard. Don't forget, we've got regional semifinal volleyball action. Bloomingdale at Palm Harbor University coming up at 7 o'clock. We'll see you here tomorrow.